Okay, welcome to the Stampscapes lab. We're going to try to take I don't know, what could be considered a weakness of a certain type of paper, in this case the colored foils, and turn it into a strength, okay? I've been doing some experiments with this, with just foils in general, and one of the things that I'm getting is some bleed through with them, okay? So if I stamp or apply white pigment ink over these foils, this color is kind of bleeding into the pigment inks that I'm applying and not giving me, or not resulting in as light and white an impression or application of white ink as I'd like, but we might be able to take advantage of that aspect of it and turn it into a strength. So we're going to see. All right, so one of the things I'm doing here, an, an uncoated sheet of foil, we're going to try it on two different colors here, is I'm going to stamp out this imagery onto the foil directly. Okay, I haven't spray sealed this foil or anything like that, which is another thing that I've been experimenting with that worked pretty good. But let's try and take advantage of this bleed through aspect of the foil and turn it into, oh, we're going to use that property as a strategy, okay? Specifically, what I'm going to attempt, or we'll see if it works, is to have darker impressions in the background and lighter ones in the foreground. So having that ink, printer's ink of these foils bleed through could potentially work pretty good. Okay, so I'm working pretty large here on this half-page piece because I want to use my Art Foamies stamps in here and see how that goes. This one's the rubber stamp version, of course, but I'll use my larger Winter Ash as well. So see that right there? I mean, it gives me a really great impression. Nice and white and very surface oriented. Someone was doing this recently and they sent me a file and said, hey, I can see, some of the, the color of the paper showing through, especially after you spray seal it. And that happens because this ink is a thick ink, or any type of ink that you're stamping on a non-porous surface, any type of liquid medium, pretty much. Maybe not a StazOn ink or something like that. That's going to dry really fast, but it kind of beads on the surface, or just initially you might not even get a really great impression because of this aspect of it being non-porous. So the ink is just kind of sitting there, and then if you lift off, sometimes it comes off. It creates this kind of vacuum. It usually depends on kind of the imagery, like a more solid imagery. It might create a vacuum, then you lift it and a lot of the ink comes off with it. This one's a little bit more kind of spindly, but you can see some more areas in the more solid areas, like the base of the trunk where it didn't stamp out perfectly because of that vacuum kind of aspect of it. So you can see it right down in there. Okay, now I don't know, these are two different colors, of course, but I don't know. Well, so far so good. I don't see it kind of bleeding through too much there. It will get darker than this, though. All right, when it sets up for a few minutes. Okay, now the thing that I'm going to do, maybe I should have done that before, is I'm going to apply some snow down here. And I should have done that first. So do that first, if you do that. I'm going to apply this kind of snowdrift right in here. That's a lot of white ink, and I don't want to use that much white ink, so bear with me here. I'll show you what I'll do as a solution for that. A solution in theory, at least, okay? All right, so 100% cotton ball. Kind of smash it down a little bit like that. Get some of that ink back there so you're not using this real, fuzzy ball of, cotton, So you're not using a super fuzzy applicator, I should say. Okay, no, just gotta lay this out. Don't worry about getting it perfectly smooth. I never do. Okay. Mine's kind of, blobby. We're going to be applying more, another layer of this, what represents snow here afterwards as well. And this is, again, when I start doing something like this and I look at this cotton ball, a lot of times the ink will, that red ink of the surface will be showing, or just, whatever color you happen to be working on. You'll see some of that color usually on the cotton ball itself. Okay, so I think that should do it right there. And let's go a little bit more on the horizon. Right on the top of the ridge, maybe. You just kind of spread it around. And this is a Brilliance white pigment ink. So it is a water-based, faster drying pigment ink than your oil-based ink. Oil-based inks just won't dry on this type of surface, so get yourself a Brilliance pad and re-inker or two, because if you like this type of technique on here, you'll be doing different techniques on different types of foils too. Let's see, let's apply a little bit more over here as well. Just kind of freehand it. Ooh, that was a big blob of ink. So you just kind of, if you get a big blob, you just kind of spread it around like this, go over it a few times. It doesn't dry real fast, okay? Something like that. All right. And then what we'll do is we'll do it again on this green one, okay? Sometimes it goes on kind of slow, but then when you get this, your cotton ball kind of more permeated with ink, wet ink, it goes a little bit faster just because there's more ink in your applicator. Now, if you're using a really super juicy pad, you might want to, be somewhat a little bit more delicate when you ink up like this. And when you apply down, otherwise, you could get like this gigantic blob of white ink. It could make things go faster though too. So just kind of get the feel of it and get a feel of kind of spreading it around. So that's some real kind of blobby touches right there. But then you just dab over it, mix it up a little bit. You might be getting little fur balls too from your cotton ball. I get them all the time. Like there's one right there. I don't know if you can see that little thing, but when the ink dries, I mean, you can take it off if you want to. If it bothers you, take it off before you spray seal it too. Okay, I think that should do it with this one. That's good enough for me at least. Okay, now I'm going to be positioning this other larger Art Foamies one right over here. See how that looks like that? It'll be like this, of course, but you get the idea. Something like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is we'll let this set up for, I don't know. I don't wait for it to dry completely because I'm impatient too impatient for that. But I'll let them set up for about maybe 5 minutes or so and dry, somewhat in that length of time. And then I'm going to spray seal this area off. I won't hit this area too much because there's nothing to spray seal up there. So I'll use a spray fixative in here and here. And then we'll go for our second layer of impressions. And, oh, okay, I forgot about this. See, it's a Stampscapes lab. I will spray seal the whole thing because I want this area right over here to be sealed, of course, because I want this foreground tree to be much lighter, and the darker one is in the distance, so it'll kind of visually recede. All right, so we'll do that. Just a light coat, and we'll come back and finish with step 2, or we'll start step 2. Okay, I have spray sealed these 2 pieces, and you can kind of see the colors showing through them a little bit. It didn't, they didn't bleed as much as I thought they would, though. Spray sealed with a spray fixative. Okay, let's go over and let's put this large ash tree right here in the foreground. It'll be going right off the, the side of the page. I mean, I'm trying to leave room in here for some kind of focal point. I forgot to do something. I was going to add in some additional snowy textures in here. We'll do it on one of them. We'll see what it looks like on, with and without. Okay, that kind of shows through a little bit. I think I didn't ink up my stamp enough. Let's do it again here. Maybe my pad's getting a little bit dry too. Oh boy, can I hit this again? We'll see if I can register this, just eyeballing it. I don't know if I can or not. We'll give it a try. It's the Stampscapes lab, folks. It's not a stamp along. Okay, I'm gonna let this transfer a little bit more. I'll hold this down, but we're gonna allow more of that ink to transfer on there. Maybe I should re-ink my pad while we wait for that. These days I know where everything is now that I got that little kind of organizer. I got this little spindle kind of organizer on my desk. I did a little show and tell with that one a few weeks ago. That's really helped out. Helped me find things really fast on my desk. Not too bad. A little bit off, but not too bad at all. Huh. It's not super wide, but here, let's do this again here. Oh, before I forget, let's add in that secondary layer of snow down in this area. But I think this one looks okay just, without it down here. I don't know, let's try it with. Okay, so this is right here. So we need to do, not offset, but we'll just change the, kind of the configuration slightly. We'll put the slope in a little bit of a different area. Okay, so this is what I'm going to see. I'm going to see if this bottom one ends up a little bit lighter because I've spray sealed that green with the spray fixative. I don't know. It might not be apparent. And if it isn't, then it just removes, an extra step that, wasn't necessary, which is kind of a good thing, I guess. Just as long, as long as the end result looks good. We'll see if it was worthwhile to do this in kind of stages and or steps. Okay. Oop, I didn't make it offset very much, like, at all. But it kind of looks cool, doesn't it? One thing about this is that you can really see how much whiter this one is right here. Let's see if it remains that way, or if it's just because it's just been, applied. I don't know. Okay, let's go back to this one. Let's see if we can get a whiter impression of this one with this re-inked pad too. I'll concentrate it through the center of it a little bit more. I get this ink on the outside by kind of, squeezing this down a little bit too much on the Art Foamy. Remember, the Art Foamy is, it's foam, so it's going to compress a little bit as we're tapping this down, so maybe I should tap lighter. I think tapping lighter too, maybe I'll build up more ink on the surface of this rather than kind of compressing it and then coming up and, if you press down on the foam too much, maybe I'm removing some of that ink off that surface and taking it back into this pad. I don't know. All right, let's see how this goes here. I kind of like that secondary layer in there. I might do that on this other one, this red one. I think it does need it. Let's do that after we get this impression right here. I think there's more ink. Kind of stuck to it a little bit. Okay. I think it looks halfway decent. I'm seeing this is lighter than that, but again, let's see how it looks after it dries. Okay. All right, let's go like this. I'll go like this right here. Or maybe I'll change the slope angle like this. Okay, that's what I was thinking about doing earlier too. Or wondering. I was kind of wondering if it would change the look of it. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm being careful not to go over that tree trunk because it's still wet, and if I dab on it, it'll remove ink. Okay, looks like my pad is getting, ooh, I was gonna say I found a nice inky spot on my pad. It's getting kind of dry on most of it. It looks like this bottom corner right down here has quite a bit of ink on it still. There we go. I think it looks pretty good. I can carry that over there a little bit more. Let's see. I can go like this, maybe. That one was kind of, you can see the double impression over there a little bit more. I'm going to do something right here. Now I need to get a Q-tip, but I'm going to wipe off. I got a little overstamping right here, you know, where that foam kind of inked up and printed out right there on the perimeter. But I think that looks pretty decent. I don't know if the first impressions look like they're so far kind of in the distance. But they are darker. Okay, so let's let these dry and then spray seal it. And then we'll see if there's any difference between these kind of more foreground impressions and the background. Okay, so let's add in some additional impressions, forms in here to just kind of enrich the textural range of the piece and visual depth. We'll go with our winter brush here. That's the name of this little bush here, by the way. It's not like a paintbrush or something. Can you change your angle slightly when you use this? I think it looks pretty cool like that. And I'm changing the height of it slightly. Adding more than I thought I would, but I really like the look, so you see how it kind of rises and falls like that. Kind of reiterates what's going on in that little snowy slope. I mean, you don't have to do that, but you know, reiterate the slope. But I would definitely vary the height of it as you're doing that. Let's add a little bit more here. I'm gonna mask this off. We'll see if this works right here. So it kind of puts it on the other side of that little slope right there. All right, and my tiny rocks, small. Increasing the textural range of the piece. See, sometimes I'm going for the second impression because it's a little bit lighter. So we want the repetition of form, but we don't want it so kind of repetitious that it looks, you know, monotonous. Okay. And I've been using this elk in a lot of my pieces. I've been thinking about using the smaller one on a couple of these, but I've been using the larger one just for a little bit more, kind of a sense of grandeur. I don't know if I don't know if it's grandeur, but just for, I guess it's just a stronger focal point. Oops, I might have slid that a little bit. Yeah, not bad. Something like that. It's a lot lighter. Lighter than the area that it's standing in. Okay. I think these are looking pretty fun. All right. This one's very light. This is the second one. So this should have been lighter. I needed to re-ink my pad though, so it was, kind of light. We'll put some extra highlighting on both of these, but pretty fun stuff so far, I think. All right, so we'll allow these to dry and set up for a little bit. Then we'll spray seal it again, and then we'll add in some extra little touches on here. Maybe some crystals or something like that, some white paint pen, and we'll put some snow on those trees. All right, we've spray sealed, and things are looking pretty good. I think the impressions that I made in the white pigment ink, especially the tiny rocks in here, they look pretty bright and light. And so does that elk. Now, the foreground impressions, I don't know if they're so much lighter than the background. The rubber ones are, though. So maybe it's just that this one's the foamy one, and this is, just a foam material. But it's not so much whiter than the background one. Although it is, especially like this one where I re-inked my my pad before application. But let's go in here and let's add in some of our little special touches in here. We're using an extra fine 0.7 millimeter acrylic paint pen. I try to create a little bit of a extra, kind of it's highlighting, and to me it represents snow in these little I don't know, what do you call it, the little Y sections where the branches Y off from the trunk. And then I'll just add it just randomly on a lot of different branches. Okay, I didn't spray seal this. I give it a really thin spray, so I think I need to spray it again. Or I can just let it dry off a little bit more. This tree's still a little bit wet, I'm finding. Spray sealed off enough, though. My pen isn't clogging as I'm going over this. What I mean by that is sometimes if the, this pigment ink, white pigment ink, is still wet, it kind of starts to clog up my tip there as I start going into it. But yeah, it's reasonably sealed off. I think there's just some areas on here that are a little bit thick still, as far as wet ink. All right, hopefully you can see those kind of those little snowy effects like that. Yeah, okay, this trunk right here is still pretty wet. I need to spray seal this off a little bit more. It's sealed enough, though, to work on it. Okay, this one right here. This one should benefit quite a bit. Okay, this one's a little bit wet too, but I think it'll allow me to apply here. See, what I'm doing is I'm doing it right with these, on the top of the branches, especially where it kind of Y's off from the, like I said, the main trunk here. It's like, you know, where snow's kind of built up like that. And again, you don't need to do it over every branch. That would be a little bit overkill. You certainly could if you want to. That would take forever, though, because there's a lot of branches in here. All right, I think that is enough to give it the tree some dimension. That white really kind of stands out, though, so what we're going to do is we're going to add in some extra little touches in here, and let's do it with, kind of debating on whether or not I want to use some of this one right here. Let's go ahead and use some of our large white paint pen. I've done this before on my smaller pieces, and I really like the look of it. Let's see if I saved any. I've given a lot of these out so far. This one right here has all these little crystals on there, which I'll probably do. But let's add these snowy, I don't know what they are. Oh, snow blossoms, I don't know. And I'll just kind of add them on these trees like so. I think it adds kind of a nice texture. On this one right here, like I said, I got a little double impression where I went for that impression a couple times, just eyeballing it. But this will give me a kind of a crisp little element on the tree. And, you know, it'll kind of bring it out from the background a little bit more. And, again, go for that kind of more dimensional type of look that I wanted in this piece to begin with, by doing kind of a darker impression, or having a darker impression in the background, and a slightly lighter one here, closer up to us. I'll stick with this one. I'll try to go for a little bit of a lighter touch in the background. It gives me a little bit of a smaller dot. I don't know if you noticed here, but I'm kind of clustering these little dots in here as well. In some areas, not everywhere. All right. Brings it to life a little bit, huh? It's kind of a stark setting, but when you add those little kind of glowing little white lights like that, it kind of changes the spirit of it a little bit. All right, let's take a look here and see. I think that is pretty fun. Let's go back to the more detailed 0.7 millimeter. And a little bit more kind of detailing into the trunks here. Now that I have all that other texture, then I think I can apply a little bit more detailing onto the trunk and have it blend in where maybe it kind of stands out kind of strangely otherwise. Trying to give a little bit more dimension to this foreground tree texturally and value-wise, like that. All right, I think that should be about it. I think reasonably festive pieces and pretty fun from a textural standpoint. Anytime I do that to the trees, it kind of reminds me of, I'm talking about what the large white paint pen, it always kind of reminds me of something, I don't know, kind of Art Nouveau-ish. Like I've seen it in some piece before or something like that, I'm not sure. All right, so I'm trying to think of anything else I want to add to these. You know, if I added some stars or something like that in the background, that might be detract from it. I was thinking about crystals up there. That would be pretty fun too. I might want to just keep this a little bit more simple with a little bit less of that bling on there. We could do it, and I think it would look pretty cool, but I think these are looking pretty good just as is, as well, especially with that white paint on there on the those tree blossoms or something like that. I thought about having some of these down here too, but I think that would I think it would be too distracting to have, you know, all that lighter kind of paint down here. We can do like some little glowing orbs around in here. I think that would look cool. But I think this looks okay. So I think I'm going to stop at that. I don't know. I'll sleep on it, you know, and take a look at these and think, you know, decide if I want anything else in here, like a word stamp or something like that. I don't know where I'd put it. Anyway, so I think there's a reasonable kind of amount of depth in here. It didn't push depth quite as much. I thought these trees in here on this recollection foil would come out a lot darker than they did, but they stamped out and didn't fade out with, you know, those colored inks permeating the white quite as much as I thought. So I don't know, that's kind of a good thing. I was going to use it to my advantage here, but if it doesn't do it, then I don't know, I guess all the better, because we get a little bit more of what we saw when it was freshly stamped to the end result a little bit more clearly. Okay, in other words, they didn't fade out quite a bit, you know, from the beginning of the process through an additional 2 layers of sealants and I don't know. They look okay. So not as much depth, but more clarity, I guess. Okay, so anyways, hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching, and thanks as always for tuning into the Stampscapes channel.